Nothing is new except that which has been lost or forgotten. We were one once, and today we are paying the price for fractures. Now, are we celebrating the ties that we once had, or are we showcasing the divisions? This is what we are going to be discussing tonight in South Asian. In our studios this evening, we have the Honorable Advisor, Gowher Rizvi, an academic, a historian, and currently an advisor on international affairs to the government of Bangladesh. And we have Ambassador Tariq Karim, who's currently advisor to the World Bank for regional integration. Welcome to the studios.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for being with us. While Ambassador Karim is very, very passionate about rivers connecting us, you are equally passionate about, if not more, on democracy and justice connecting South Asia. How do you think South Asia is doing right now in terms of democracy and elections?
The point I have tried to make is that South Asia is essentially one. When you look at it in terms of history, culture, we have shared histories, shared culture, shared language. I mean, there are few regions in the world who have more shared commonalities than South Asia. The reason I emphasize democracy is because one thing that has withheld regional cooperation is South Asia has very few periods in our history where all the countries of South Asia have been democratic at the same time. Unless we have democracy where people's will influences and shapes government policy, individual rulers who are not guided by democracy have their own agenda to pursue. And hence, they do not reflect the aspiration of the people who want peace, who want to work together. The second reason why I also emphasize this question of justice is without us working together, coming together, we are not going to solve the problem of poverty. Today, South Asia has many achievements. Each individual country in South Asia has done enormously well in many, many respects. But it is also undeniable that we are the receptacle of world's largest poverty, largest illiteracy. Now, this is a shame that we do not have to live with. And that is why, if we come together, it will enable us to eliminate poverty and allow our people to live with dignity and in comfort.
So basically what the Honorable Advisor is saying is that we are one, we should be one, yet we are weak, and we can be one and be powerful. Is that what you're saying? So in unity, the strength of South Asia lies.
I think when I say we are one, we are not saying it is one state. We are now individual states, sovereign states.
So we are fractured.
No. We are independent, sovereign states, but we are also confident. There is no threat to our sovereign existence. Nobody is trying to change the geography, political geography of South Asia. What we are saying is the greatest advantage that we have is one, proximity. Second, our shared civilization. In order to make a shorthand, shared civilization. Given these two great advantages, why we should be putting up artificial barriers defies imagination. I could put this question differently and ask you, give me one argument against regional cooperation. And I can assure you,
there's none.
You will not find one.
There is none.
Therefore, we should not have to convince the people why we want South Asia, because those who argue against it will have to explain to the future generation why they were so myopic. Why did they work against the interests of their own people? So I think we can start with it, that the region wants a greater cooperation, greater economic integration, and people are now pushing the governments to go in that direction, because we have seen our history of last 7 decades. By trying to beggar each other, we have not solved any of the problem. And my last statement in this respect is, if you look at all our contemporary South Asian problems, whether it is poverty, environment, security,
or
illiteracy,
politics.
well, politics is much more national. The reality is, you can only solve these problems through cooperation and not confrontation. Confrontation is in the past. No problem will be solved militarily or through confrontation. These are transnational problems: water scarcity, environmental degradation, arms smuggling, human trafficking. All these we will address by working together.
Thank you. Ambassador Karim, what is the best and the fastest way of bringing us together?
Reconnecting with each other. I think I'd like to take up the point that Dr. Rizvi raised. We were one, in a sense, we rendered ourselves asunder. South Asia was perhaps the most integrated region in the world. Overnight, it became the least integrated region. And since then, I think we have been hostage to the partition syndrome. The problem with that was, you can partition the land, but can you partition the waters, the skies, the air? That is what we effectively did. We are, as Dr. Rizvi explains, we should be very confident about our independent identities now, over 7 decades onwards after the partition of 47. But somehow we still, in the politics, that still plays out. I think the best way of rediscovering each other is to reconnect each other with the traditional connectivities that we used to have.
Are you talking about sub-regional connectivity?
Sub-regional and regional. I think in a sense, we have to go building block by building block. Sub-regional will help us or enable us to go to the larger regional connectivity. And in that sense, I think we are taking some hesitant steps forward. They are producing some results. I see water connectivity as the one connectivity which can really bind us all together.
I don't think we are now that hesitant.
Yeah, I was just going to ask him that why did you exactly mention hesitant?
If you look at what has happened in the
point.
last 8-9 years, there has been a sea change. The arguments of so-called transit or connectivity, there was huge political disagreements over this. Today, these are agreed issues. We are once again reconnecting our rails, our roads. We are connected through internet. People are traveling much more easily, although our ultimate aspiration is seamless travel without the necessity of visas and checkpoints. That would be our ultimate thing. But things are moving. And what is most important is, two of the most important governments, Government of India and Government of Bangladesh, both Prime Ministers Narendra Modi and Dr. Manmohan Singh, and on this side Sheikh Hasina. There has been a meeting of the mind, and they both have made South Asian cooperation a centerpiece of their policy. Not just because the idea is so relevant, but also because it is the essential means to fighting poverty.
On that note, since Ambassador Karim, you are the High Commissioner of Bangladesh to India, there's a huge perception actually all over South Asia about India being the supreme other. What is it that plays the most critical part in our South Asian relationship? Is it the tenor, the tone, or actually the substance?
I think all three interplay with each other. The tone and the tenor certainly impact the substance. If the tone and tenor are awry, the substance comes to a halt. I was fortunate to have had the privilege of serving as High Commissioner for over 5 years. And I would say perhaps not perhaps, definitely, to get any form of cooperation, regional cooperation going, the inevitable truth one has to face is that we all have to learn how to live with India. The image of India as the dominant factor looms large over all of us. But India is the only country which actually is connected with all the other South Asian countries, barring Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a latecomer to SAARC. Number two, I think the connectivities all have to do with the connectivities that we used to have with India, particularly when I'm talking in the context of Bangladesh and Pakistan and Nepal and Bhutan. We did have connectivities, and major connectivity, certainly in this part of South Asia and the BBIN, which you mentioned, were the waterways. I mentioned we have made remarkable progress. Having put our boundary issues behind us, we have no impediments in taking relationship forward. Getting Bangladesh-India relations right was absolutely critically important to getting anywhere with the sub-regional cooperation agenda. You need to have at least 3 countries with good, strong bilateral relations, contiguously located to each other, to be able to take this forward. And therefore, our relations with India enabled the two of us to work to get the other countries around us on the same platform. That's how BBIN is happening. I think road transportation, road links which were severed are being restored. All rail links will be restored. But the most important part of the connectivity is the waters. I think there is where I would like to see much faster progress. Because waters, this part of the subcontinent, what is BBIN, is what was, I think, is perhaps the core of what used to be once the Bengal presidency. And if you look at the template that the British used for connectivity and the progression that they made, particularly around 1858 and onwards, 100 years after Palasi, that is when they discovered the riches that they could earn from here for their own development. And they used this connectivity to extract wealth and then send back their own goods. We can use the same connectivity for our own development to export and increase our exports.
On that note, we'll take a short break because I would really like to show the map of the 1880 Bengal presidency. And let's see what Ambassador Tariq Karim has to say about the template that he is now prescribing. So a short break now. And now we talk about maps. Ambassador Karim, so what are the maps that you really want to talk about with us today?
Well, I would like to talk, we ended on the Bengal presidency, the maps that defined this part, this region or sub-region. The 1858, the British had consolidated their position. By that time, they had started building the railways. 1880 is where they discovered that they had attended to the agenda in the western part, the Gangetic Plains, where they tried the irrigation and other networks with mixed success. They were now looking eastward because the line of communication was extracting things from the west and taking it to the Andhra Pradesh and Singapore. They had set up new ports, starting with Karachi, Mumbai, Madras, Calcutta, Rangoon, and then on to Penang and Singapore. That was the line of communication. And in 1937, if you look at the map as they had configured it, Dhaka, which after the partition of Bengal in 1905 was the capital of Eastern Bengal, Shillong, the summer capital, is at the very epicenter of what we are now talking about is the Bay of Bengal area. That is the glory which defined the Bengal presidency, which historians have extolled in their accounts of the region from the mid 17th century onwards. I would like to see us getting back to that position when we become the epicenter of connectivity from South Asia to Southeast and East Asia.
Dr. Rizvi, as a historian, What would you say to this?
Basically, I think it's absolutely right that location of Bangladesh is where it connects Southwest Asia to Southeast Asia. There is no two opinions about it. It's a question of developing the infrastructure. But if I could go back to your earlier question that you posed to Ambassador Karim about why smaller countries feel uncomfortable. You know, the reality is when SARC was formed, the main anxiety and opposition, or if not opposition, a lack of enthusiasm came from India. India was much more comfortable dealing bilaterally one-on-one. And they viewed, somewhat wrongly, that SARC was ganging up of the smaller states to bring pressure on India. And that is why...
As if it would matter.
That is why, that was their perception, and that is why initial progress was slow. Now, what has transformed the situation is India has become a champion of South Asian cooperation as well, because India realizes that we are interdependent, interconnected, and we must all work together, cooperate, in order for India's own full potential, both regional and global, to be realized.
Are there other countries who are equally eager to champion the cause of South Asia, beyond South Asia, meaning China?
Obviously, again, the other scheme on the table is BCIM, Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar. And Bangladesh is again a very enthusiastic champion. But of course, the two bookends are India and China. So unless they move together forward, I don't think there is much we can do. But this is obviously unique, and it is also the only way that it will link us to Southeast Asia and thereon to East Asia. So I think all these things have enormous potentials, and I think we need to just get away from this can't be done to this can-do mentality, and things are going to happen.
Ambassador Karim, how do you view the Shanghai-Mumbai connectivity that China is currently attempting? China is still an observer in SARC, so and they are very aggressive. I mean, positively aggressive, of course.
Well, if you look at China's aspirations from the time it was the Middle Kingdom and when it was at the epicenter of the Silk Route, today the RBI map that they have is very, very close to what the configurations of connectivity that is established during the time of the Silk Route. Their prosperity today dictates that they look at markets way beyond their own region. And for that, they cannot do a leapfrog. They have to go through the intervening regions in between. So in that sense, there is a logic to the template of connectivity that they have in mind. Of course, as Dr. Rizvi has pointed out, there are, let us say, competing interests in the region between India and China. Now, I would look at it somewhat differently. As I mentioned that Bangladesh-India relations were critically important for getting the sub-regional cooperation, which ultimately could translate into a regional cooperation template. I would also say that right now Bangladesh's critical importance, I think, has been enhanced because it enjoys equally good relations with both India and China, which it did not previously. They were sort of a mixed bag. And in a sense, therefore, Bangladesh can actually act as an active bridge of friendship between these two Asian giants. How that will work out? It will take some time, it will take some patience, but we have seen that given goodwill and political will to reach out to each other, getting rid of worries and imagined threats out of the way, clarifies the pathway ahead. That has happened in the case of Bangladesh-India relations. That in turn translated into Bangladesh, India, Bhutan, Nepal coming together and undertaking projects, starting with the roads, the then pronouncing they want to have something similar on the railways. They have something going on the energy front. Incidentally, the energy front is proving to be the cooperation field in which we have seen the maximum forward movement. And without energy, we cannot have our own industrial revolution. So these things happening, I think, augur well. And if we can do it in respect of sub-regional cooperation here, perhaps the larger picture will also emerge at some point of time.
Dr. Rizvi, on that note, since Ambassador Karim was referring to Bangladesh, India, specifically on the energy sector, the collaboration. So it's basically economy and economic considerations which are basically bringing us closer. Would you agree?
Economics is certainly important. And as I said, one of the reasons why regional integration and cooperation makes great sense is to eliminate poverty. But I think if we only focused on the economic, we would miss out the reality and the beauty of South Asia. That is our common culture, shared history, sometimes different, but shared history, culture, language, civilization, which in a way, when you are abroad in different parts of the world, in a gathering you see another South Asian, you make a beeline, and you instantly are at home with each other. Why? Because we have a shared view of the world, same taste, same cultural traits. Therefore, I think we must not only underestimate it, we must keep that center and focused on it. And that is why one of the things we have to insist upon and encourage is greater movement of people and tourists and students and pilgrims across the region, so that they can see each other, they can learn more about each other and realize how close and how little difference exists between us.
Quick question to you. Do you watch cricket?
I do.
So when India is playing against Pakistan, who do you support?
Sorry, may I tell you, I don't want to go into that political side of it.
No, it's cricket.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. And because I love cricket and I am a cricketer, I used to be a cricketer, I look for a good game. When somebody plays a good shot, I applaud, I enjoy.
You never take sides.
I'm not a very nationalistic in that respect.
What about yourself, Ambassador?
I support the game. Absolutely.
True sportsmen, true diplomats. Wonderful. We were talking about economic considerations. I was just thinking about TAPI, the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, India, Pakistan. I was just thinking if India and Pakistan could actually come together on economic considerations like that, why can't the region actually come together? I mean, think about it. The intra-regional collaboration still is less than 5%. I mean, the trade. We are still struggling with the numbers, and for over years and decades, we haven't been able to change it. What stops us? Why do we have so many non-tariff barriers? Why is there an intricate, implicit deficit of trust that we lag on? And why do we do this? What stops us?
Let me first say, clear one small thing. I think these non-tariff barriers, at least in our part of the region, is exaggerated. Because we have not yet got used to doing trades, these are mental constructs. What is required is greater standardization and harmonization of rules. That is what is impeding things, not simply non-tariff barrier. There is another reason. I think South Asia is a vast region. Although we have argued that it's one civilization, great cultural, historical links, but there are also diversities. And therefore, it is very important to remember that the whole region may not always be willing to walk in locksteps. And therefore, regions which want, sub-regions which want to go forward should be allowed to go forward and should move forward and not wait for the rest. But eventually, we should all be able to get to the same point. There is another summary, and we have to acknowledge this. One of the problems in regional cooperation remains Pakistan and Pakistan-India relations. Unfortunately, we can talk on another day how to resolve these problems. That is holding back some of the efforts of region-wide cooperation. But we hope countries will look at Bangladesh-India cooperation, Bangladesh-India, Nepal, Bhutan cooperation, and see there is a fascinating template and extremely positive, inspiring story for others to follow.
On that note, it's time to say goodbye, but thank you so much for being with us today, and I look forward to having you both again.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Rubana, thank you so much.
Well, for the sake of ecology, economy, and environment, South Asia does need to be together. And in that case, what do we do? Do we reinvent South Asia? Well, there's a famous line that I'd like to quote from Amitav Ghosh's famous novel. It's called Shadow Lines. And what it says is, a place really does not exist. One has to invent it through imagination. Shall we then try imagining one South Asia once again? Please keep on watching South Asian every third Friday of the month and be a true South Asian.